What's up, you guys? Welcome back. If you are new, my name is Jess and you have found yourself a prison YouTuber. If you don't like talking about prison or the things leading up to prison or life after prison or basically all things prison, addiction, and mental health, this is not the channel for you. I highly recommend you watch anything else on the internet. What's really good right now, in my opinion, is the tiny house movement. It's so adorable. So even if you are a member of the Ride or Die crew, check out the tiny house movement. That is so dope. But today we're gonna be talking about communicating in and outside of prison. But before we get started, I just have to say, I'm not glorifying or glamorizing jail or prison. There's nothing cool, fun, or funny about it. It's a horrible, dark place. And it is my hope that in sharing these stories, you guys will be deterred from making the same mistakes I made. There's always something to be learned when someone makes a mistake, and in my opinion, failure teaches the best lessons. I never got a good glimpse of myself when I was doing well. When I was succeeding in life, I didn't learn things. I learned the most of my lessons from rock bottom. So without further ado, let's get into how inmates communicate in and outside of prison. One more super random thing. This is not like a paid promotion or anything. These people don't know I exist, but this just came in the mail and I'm so excited just to show it to you guys. I was looking everywhere for fresh eucalyptus. I couldn't find it in my area and I don't want to damage it, but they send you, it smells so good. I'm gonna put some in my shower. It smells so good. So they send you fresh eucalyptus and the company is called Eucalyptus Farms and they're based out of California. So amazing. It's actually a monthly subscription. So every month they send you fresh eucalyptus. So dying to try that in my shower. Again, they don't know I exist. I just got this in the mail 5 seconds ago and wanted to tell you guys. So, awesome. I'm so excited. And it was like 20 bucks. So okay, so let's start with communicating inside of prison. Now this gets actually really tricky. Now you would think like, oh, you can just talk to any inmate you want, right? If you've never been, you wouldn't really know that there's a system in place for talking to people outside of your barracks or outside of your cell. So let's start with kites. So let's say you're in a closed tier, either it's a seg unit or just a closed tier, everyone's on lockdown and you wanna get something from your cell, 8 cells down and 2 tiers down. So that requires you to fish, and I've actually made an entire video on prison hacks where you put the kite on and you send it down, and it takes a little bit of teamwork sometimes to get it to where you need it to go, actually all the time, and I suck at it. So fishing is one form of communication, but kites are an all over prison thing. So say you're in prison and you live in housing unit 1, but you have to get something to housing unit 3. That takes so much finesse because it's actually a major disciplinary if you're caught in a different housing unit, for the simple fact that you could be going to that housing unit looking for a fight. So the housing units are separated for a reason. You're not all together. That way, if there is a really violent attack on another inmate, you guys will be placed in different housing units so it doesn't happen again. There are also something called, oh crap, it just left my mind, like enemy report or some crap, where an inmate can actually tell staff that they're really afraid of you and they have to be moved away from you. In my personal experience, when this happens, it's because the female wants to get to a different unit for a completely different reason and she's using you as a scapegoat. There's a lot of manipulation going on in prison. Inmates are manipulating the rules, they're manipulating each other, they're trying to manipulate the staff, and it's all day. It's an all day thing. So I was very good at getting to different housing units to get kites from one side to the other, and I would actually charge, because if you don't want to take that risk, but you want to get a kite to your girlfriend, I'm gonna charge you for it. So it was very simple for me. I'm small. I'm small and I didn't make a lot of noise in prison, and the guards really didn't know who I was in Arkansas. So it was kind of easy for me to get to different housing units. And the way that I would do that is I would go out to things like pill call, or I would sign up to do different things like a medical visit or go to the library. So I was one of those people that would kind of play like, oh, I didn't hear you call that. Can I get out? I have to go. That way I'm not with the actual group, and the people in control are not, they don't know why I'm like coming from gate to gate, right? So I would walk to the right place that I was supposed to, and then I'd try to leave with a different group. You know, and it's tricky. It's really tricky to get in and out of different housing units. It's not something I would recommend if you're going to prison. Follow all of the rules. If that is going to be your fate and you're going to end up in prison, don't do what I did. don't go to different housing units because I promise you they will throw you in SEG for out of place of assignment. So I would just try my best to get into different groups or housing units so that I could pass kites. There was even a time where a girl paid me a bunch of money to get 3 kites to a different housing unit. I'm like, oh, I got this because I got this meeting or whatever. I'm gonna be out. Got it. So what ended up happening was I gave the kites to someone else that was in that housing unit. Now, in a housing unit, there's multiple barracks. So I gave these kites to someone that was supposed to get them to this girl in her housing unit. Now, she could have waited till rec, she could have waited till chow. There's different things that the same people in a housing unit are gonna see each other for, like chow, library, crap like that, right? So I was in housing unit 1 and I gave 3 kites to someone that lived in housing unit 3, expecting her to go out and give them to the inmate that I told they were for. And what ended up happening was that girl got scared and she threw them out. So this person paid me for passing these kites, and the kites never got there. And of course you find out because everyone in prison is talking. So there's no secrets. Everyone's watching what you're doing, and it's very easy, you know, to get things back and forth if you're a seasoned veteran at this, right? So she eventually ended up finding out. I had to pay back that money because at first I didn't tell her that I gave the kites to someone else. I just said, yeah, I got it. It's done, it's handled, because I thought my friend was gonna handle it, but she didn't. She got scared and she threw them out because she couldn't find her right away and she didn't want to have these kites or whatever. So that happened. There is also an entire sign language system set up. So if you are in a unit, if you're in a barracks and another barracks is across the hall and everything is glass, you can see each other, right? And you will get thrown in SEG for being caught signing to another person across the hall. But like, this is a big one. This is a big one for girlfriends in prison. They do this. Means I love you, go to rec. So like meet me at rec or whatever, right? So you'll see them, and it's not like real sign language. It's like prison sign language. Or inmates are very good at reading lips. I'm terrible at this, you know? So like if a girl just got in trouble for talking on the window in our barracks, they would be like, New York, go to the window and see what she said. And I'm just like, something about potatoes? Were y'all talking about potatoes? And she's like, no, oh my God, you can't read lips. And I'm like, no, I'm also partially blind. Am I helping? And they would get so frustrated with me and they would think that I'm kidding. I mean, I was kind of kidding, but I really had no idea what they were saying. So, you know, I'm surprised I didn't get my ass kicked more than I did because I am just no good at helping. I'm no good at helping with fishing. I cannot read lips, and I don't understand a lot of your prison sign language, and I don't care. I would rather read a book or make some food or just be left alone. You know, I'm like a toxic introvert. So yeah, talking on the window and doing all that, not for me. Another way that inmates would communicate is they would hide things in different areas in the gym or outside. So in Arkansas, the last place that I was at, we didn't get to go outside very often. So they would let us go to rec, but the rec was actually a gym. So women would hide their letters or hide kites or hide whatever in the gym, which is like a whole nother process because you get patted down every time you leave your barracks, basically. Like men will pat women down. So there's that. And every one of these things can land you in the shoe, in the hole, in segregation. You're going to go to seg if you get caught doing any of these things. And I'm sorry if this doesn't really make sense. I kind of just realized this might seem all over the place. Okay, communicating with the outside world in prison. This is a very costly or time-consuming thing. So let's just start with letters. Every inmate gets what's called indigent. So if you don't have any money, you get like $12 a month indigent, and that's basically the prison giving you $12 to go to the store and you can buy hygiene items or you can buy stamps and envelopes. That's also on the indigent list. So say you have no family, no money, nothing, you get your $12 in indigent. You get letters and paper. So you get stamped envelopes, paper and pen from indigent. You can write home. But that takes so much time. It takes so much time. So you write a letter and then you have to put it in a mailbox. You can't seal the letter because all of the mail has to be has to be gone over, whether it's coming in the prison or leaving the prison. All of the letters and all of the mail is inspected. So you drop it in the little box and the prison will mail it for you. So to get a letter into prison, there are so many rules. You can't send a card that has any kind of mechanical thing that makes sound. So you know those cards that like sing happy birthday? You can't send that to a prison. And I get this question a lot, and I never thought this would be a question, but people ask me all the time, can you send tampons to prison? Can you send, I'm laughing because no, but can you send tampons to prison? Can you send paper or stamps to prison? No, you can't send anything into a prison unless that prison has like has a list saying that you can. For example, you can send them a book from Amazon, but you can't just like mail things to the prison. So the only things that are approved to go to a prison are books from a company, not your house, usually. I mean, I'm sure there's different rules and regulations for every jail and every prison across the country, but books are okay. As long as it's not like spiral bound notebooks, none of that. You can't send paper usually because they sell paper on commissary, just regular books from Amazon. I think they should be soft cover if it's a maximum security prison. There's, like I said, different rules. And then letters, plain paper, black or blue ink, no perfume, no glitter. If your kids are trying to send a letter to their mom or their dad or their aunt or their cousin or their whatever, glitter, marker, crayon, it just depends. It depends on the prison. It depends on the mailroom officer's mood. So say someone mails something to an inmate that is not allowed, the inmate will be notified and the inmate will have to pay money to either send it back to that person or just throw it out. So if you get mail that's not approved, you can pay the shipping cost to send it back to that person, or you can just throw it out. It's up to you, and that sucks, but the prison's not gonna pay for it because someone sent you something that you can't have because you know the rules and you're supposed to inform your family of the rules when it comes to mail. Let's talk about emails. So I've never been able to send an email because when I was doing time in New York, we just didn't have kiosks to send emails. Now I think you use JPay. So now you can send emails from county jail, and I think New York State prisons are actually implementing this as well. I didn't see it in my day. In Arkansas, I also did not see emails. There was no kiosk to send emails out. However, in Arkansas, you can email an inmate and they can write you back. So the inmates don't have access to a kiosk unless they're in a certain barracks, I think. It has changed. I've been out for 5 years, so it has changed. But I think certain places in Arkansas, certain facilities and certain barracks does have kiosks to allow inmates to email back. So they have started to implement that since I left as well. Okay, let's talk about phones. Now, I get asked all the time if I had a cell phone in prison or if I ever saw cell phones in prison. No, I never had a phone. I never had a phone. I never saw a phone. No one had a phone. But now every dude in prison has a cell phone. I'm not gonna go into how they get cell phones, but it's definitely a thing. Not every inmate, I'm exaggerating, not every male inmate has a cell phone, but I have definitely video chatted with people in prison before. So there's that. And we are seeing videos of officers abusing inmates. We're seeing video filmed by inmates released to the media. So we're seeing that a lot more in the news, which I know the inmate is not supposed to have the phone, but I'm all about exposing corruption. So I'm glad in certain situations that the inmate was able to record extreme violence or even murder. So I have seen officers stomping out people. I've seen officers beating up an inmate in county jail. I recently just saw on the news a kid sitting in one of those restraint chairs and an officer just punching him like crazy. He's completely restrained and getting his ass beat by this officer. Then the officer had the nerve to try to file workman's comp because his hand was broken from beating up this kid. It happens all the time. So I will leave that article linked down below. If I forget, one of y'all please remind me, but I will leave it linked down below. So back to phone calls, you can call on the phone to approved numbers. So it's a whole process. When a person goes to jail, you think you can just call, they can call home immediately? No, and you don't get like a free phone call unless it's to a bondsman. So in order to call a family member in prison, you have to send them a phone form. They have to put all their information, social security number, everything, address, full name, everything on this visitation or phone form. I think it's one form. Yeah, it's one form. It's a visitation/phone form. They fill it out and they send it back to whatever officer is in charge of that. And that officer will run a background check on them. And if they are approved, you can call. That was how Arkansas worked. New York is a lot different in that you can just fill out numbers on a sheet and get a certain amount of numbers put on your phone, like approved phone numbers. But they don't go as far as like doing background checks or whatever. There are a lot of rules with the phone. So in every single prison phone call, they will say, this is being recorded, blah, blah, blah. So you can't talk about things as openly and as freely as you would like on a prison phone, or you can, but I would not tell, if you broke the rules or something, I wouldn't talk about it on a prison phone. Just my advice. But the phone calls are so expensive. Once you finally do get these numbers approved, once you finally can use the phone calls are so expensive. In federal prison, it's only 15 minutes long and it cuts out halfway through the phone call, this call is from a federal prison. And then it beeps when it's at the end of the call and then it beeps again when they're hanging up on you. So you get a little bit of a warning, but the phone calls are so short and they're so freaking expensive, you guys. And then in the state, you can talk for up to 30 minutes in New York, 20 minutes in Arkansas. And for example, my mom would put $25 on the phone. We'd get like 4 or 5 20-minute phone calls. So we'd have to really space out those calls. And just because I am so forgetful, I'd have to write down things that I was meaning to tell my mom before I even got on the phone. So right now it is the holiday season and you guys, I promise you, across the country, there have been thousands of fistfights over that phone because in a housing unit or a barracks unit with like 60 people, there's like 3 or 4 phones and one phone never works during the holidays, or maybe they turn it off just to mess with you. I have no idea. But the lines are so long. And then if you have a kiosk where you can email your family, the lines are so long. So it's very, very difficult to reach out to your family during the holidays. But just communicating with the outside world is so stressful. And these are the things you don't really think about when you're running and gunning the street. You think I really thought about calling my mom when I was a dealer or when I was in my addiction? No. My mom even came to visit me in New York prison and I turned her away. And it's funny because I was in a housing unit with my girl, I almost said her name. I was in a housing unit with one of my friends and she got a visit from her dad, but then they called me out too and our parents were friends and I'm like, I bet your dad picked up my mom and they're here together. Like, oh my God. And sure enough, we're going into the area to visit and I saw my mom through the glass and I said, nope, I want to go back to the unit. So I straight up refused seeing my mom because I didn't want to see her when I was doing time in New York because I was still in my addiction. I was using drugs in prison. I didn't care to see her. I didn't want to see anyone because I'll be home soon. We can talk then. I know that broke my mom's heart. I don't know why I was like that, but I just didn't want anyone to see me. I could have been high and just mad in that moment that I was being pulled out. And another thing too is when you're at a visit and your family finally does come in to visit you, that's a good opportunity for the officers to just ransack your cell. So for whatever reason, I had to get back to the unit, probably because I had contraband, and that contraband when I was 18 years old was more important to me at that time than visiting my mom, because that's how strong of a hold my addiction had on me. So, wow. You know, thinking back to all the things I did, it kind of just feels like a bad dream, and I'm so lucky and so blessed to be sitting here in front of you guys today. I'm gonna end today's video here. I really hope you guys took something from this video or learned something from this video or found inspiration to just keep fighting. And if you're in active addiction, please reach out to someone that you trust for help. I love you guys. Stay safe, stay sober. Do not break the law because I promise you, you do not want to fight over those phones in a county jail or prison. Bye, you guys.